Booked All Night is hosting live indie author interviews all February, including Ron Willow, Ashley Peters, Kim Barden, and Kelly Preston. Join our Discord to ask questions in the interview forums and find all dates and times at bookedallnight.co. The link's in the show notes. Welcome to Booked All Night, the podcast where hot takes meet craft notes and no one gets enough sleep. I'm Jess.
I'm Katie.
I'm Julia.
I'm Maggie. Get ready for unhinged hot takes,
A whole lot of books,
midnight giggles,
and zero shame. Grab your blankets, booklets, it's time to get booked all night. Welcome to Booked All Night, the podcast where hot takes meet craft notes. I'm Jess, and today we are joined by Kim Barden, author of the Finding Ever After series. So welcome to the show, Kim!
Thank you! It's so good to be here.
Yes, and good morning to you all the way across the world.
Yes, and good evening to you.
Thank you. So tell us about the series.
Well, the Finding Ever After series is kind of like a dark fairy tale retelling where once upon a time the TV show basically meets the original Grimm's fairy tales. It's about a woman who's hired by the Huntsman to find the lost Princess Snow, and it basically takes us across this epic journey where we meet a ton of fairy tale characters that you've never met before, ones that you have met before or ones that you might not recognize, but they've all got a little bit of a twist to it. So Rumpelstiltskin weaves dreams instead of gold. Rapunzel's gone a little bit crazy in her tower. There's the sea witch, but she's also a sea queen, and there's a whole bunch of interlocking history there with all of the kingdoms. So it's just a really fun, dark fantasy, and I'm really excited to be wrapping it up this year. So.
Wrapping it up, it's coming to an end. That is exciting and like a little bittersweet. Like
so bittersweet, but a very big year and very exciting year. So yes, we just had it's been a long time coming, so it's very exciting, and I did cry a little bit when I finished it, but we're here, so
yay. Well, you had me at fairy tale retelling, so we'll just add that series, and then it's done, so I can just get the whole series at once, and I don't have to wait, so I'm privileged in that sense.
Yes, 100%.
So we're going to start the official podcast with a quick game of superlatives, just basically the end of the year book, sort of most likely to, etc., etc.
Okay.
So, who is the most emotionally dangerous fairy tale trope?
In my series or in fairy tales in general?
Ooh,
the most emotionally dangerous you would think would be the Evil Queen, but I'm actually going to say Princess Snow for this one. Yes.
The character you would trust with your life.
I'm going to go for the Huntsman. Yes, he's a massive cinnamon roll, and there's just something about him that you just know he will take care of you, and he's weirdly a badass at the same time. So Hansel can wrap me up and protect me any day of the week.
Perfect. The villain who almost convinced you that they were right.
The Evil Queen, Queen Morena. So she's a big theme in this series is basically finding happily ever after. So everybody's got their own version of happy ever after, and some of it's darker than others because humans and people are complex, right? So Morena's happily ever after is obviously terrible for everyone else, but she wants it badly and she'll do anything to get it. And you, throughout the series, really understand her motives. And even when I was writing her, there were a lot of things where I kind of thought, that makes sense, or I can see why she would want that. Or, very humanized. And definitely the Evil Queen for that question.
Yeah, that's perfect. I had a teacher, Joe McGee, and he had taught this whole lesson. He actually had like a whole workshop on it at one point about villains and how like the best villains are the ones that were kind of like, well, I sort of agree with you, and that's a little bit of a problem because you're evil and I should not. But like, that's what makes a really great villain, is that it kind of drags you in with it, and you're like, wait, are you wrong?
Yeah, and it's that, that age-old saying as well that, like, somebody's a villain in somebody else's story, like, so, and you might not be in your own. So, it's such an interesting concept, and I love complex villains. I love villains that I am unsure about, that I kind of understand why they're doing things. So, Morena was definitely probably the most fun to write because of that.
That sounds fun. What was the scene you were most afraid to write?
Well, speaking of finales, writing the ending. So there's one pivotal scene right at the like it's actually the epilogue of the final book that I'd probably say was the hardest scene to write for me because there's so many threads in this series that come together and this one particular character we've been following for such a long time and I really wanted to give them an ending that felt right but that was also true to their character and that was really hard to do in a way that equals happily ever after, if that makes sense, but also not
Yeah.
destroy the reader at the same time. So, as we were saying, it's bittersweet finishing it. So I think there was a little bit of longing in there of not really wanting to finishing it, but knowing that I had to finish it and just giving it that right amount of hope and heartbreak and that all round satisfaction at the same time that kept it true to the story and true to this particular character. So yeah, I'm gonna have to say the epilogue of the absolute
The
final book.
epilogue.
Mm.
And then in the entire series, what was the moment that you felt everything changed across the whole series?
Oh, I'm going to say book three, about halfway. So for those who haven't read it, like there's a lot of point of views in this series, right? Because there's a lot of different fairy tale characters and they all interlink. Like every single character has a place and a point and a reason for being there. So at the end of the series, you kind of go, I see, I'm picking up what she was putting down.
Yeah.
And book three and two, when I was writing them, they are on the same timeline. So while there's five in this series, there was just a bit too much happening all at once. So I kind of split book two and three. So I wrote book two's timeline with a certain set of characters and book three's timeline with a certain set of characters. And I wrote them before publishing them at the same time so I could interlink where I needed to. But I think three really changed for me because I could see an ending forming and it was a different ending than what I had originally planned, but it was so much better than what I had originally wanted. And so I then had to link it to book two and change a lot of things in those two books specifically. And I think that's where my big pivotal aha moment was, where I knew exactly what was going to happen in book four and I knew exactly what was going to happen in book five. And I could see everything coming together in a really clean way. And it was
Mm-hmm.
a super exciting, pivotal moment. Yeah, I don't know, it's the weirdest thing being a writer. You slog and you slog, and then all of a sudden you have these aha moments, and it makes all of those blood, sweat, and tears just absolutely worth it.
Yes, I call that slushy awful part 20K limbo because I get there and I'm like, "Oh no,
Where
decisions."
to next? Yeah.
Yeah, crap. Like
Yeah, for me it's the 30K, usually around 30K
yep.
in a book. I'm like, do I need to reevaluate where I'm at, or I'll put it down for a little bit and then come back. And yeah, it seems to be a common thread that you get to a certain point and then you kind of have to see what you want to do next.
Yeah, and it's really weird too. Like the last piece that I tend to write children's lit, so I write middle grade for like 8 to 12-year-olds. And
Fun.
yeah, right, it's where we get away with all the fart jokes. It's perfect. And but the last piece that I wrote, I was like, I know where I want it to end, and I know that I want XYZ to happen. And then I got
Hmm.
up to like X and Y. I'm like, how do I get to Z? What is going to happen here? Like, I am nowhere near the word count I thought I would be at this point in my story. And now
Yep,
other things have to happen, and it's like such a universal feeling among writers where it's like, I
100%.
am like 70% of the way through my draft, and I thought that I would be 100% of the way through my draft, and this
Hmm.
is a problem. Or a lot of fantasy writers have the opposite problem where they're like, I am 150% of the way through my draft, and I need to cut a whole bunch of words now.
Yeah. Honestly, editing with fantasy is just cut, cut, cut.
Yep.
It's to a certain extent. I mean, my fourth book was an interesting one because that one's about 125,000 words or 100. No, I think it's 130. No, sorry, book four's 140,000. Um, but originally it was 120. That's
Mm-hmm.
where I got the confusion. So in this instance, I had the opposite for book four. I actually had to extend it out to align things or put more emotion in and things like that. But normally, yeah, you'd have your, 150,000 word book, which you finally managed to cut down to 110,
Yeah.
400 to 500 pages. And yeah, uh, it's, it's always a nightmare, but I kind of find it fun in a way. I feel like I've become the queen of like slicing and dicing. In
Hmm.
our little writing group that I've got with two other writer friends of mine, and they beta read for me, and we kind of swap manuscripts. One of them's known as like the emotion person who kind of like drags more from you to get more feeling and nuance, whereas I'm the one that comes in and just goes, all right, these 3 paragraphs, you've said the same thing, merge them into one and get rid of that whole page. So
That's me.
yeah.
Yep. For other people's work, that's me. For my own work, I don't remember the craft book that we had read, but it was like there are two type of editors, and one of them is a samurai and just slices through things, and the other one is like a tweed sleeved professor and
Hmm.
analyzes over all of them. And like when I'm going through my own work, I am very much a tweed sweet. Like I'm that professor. But going through other people's work where I don't have some
You're the
emotional
samurai.
attachment to it, I am the samurai, and I could just be like, yeah, you said the same thing 14 times on this page. Oh, half of this page can go. Look at that. We're down. We just cut like 100 words. We're good. It's fine.
I love that. Yeah. I never thought, I think I'm pretty brutal with my own work as well. So, yeah. That's so interesting that you're different for each. I suppose we look at our own work differently because
Hmm.
it's come from us. Like, I'm a big believer that as writers, there's always some little portion of us within that story or those words, as if we're giving a piece of our soul with each story
Yes.
that we write. And it means that, we assess it differently. I guess it's the same if everybody perceives themselves differently than other people
Yeah.
do. Yeah, it's fascinating, human nature. Hmm.
Plus, we've read it 850 million times,
Oh,
and
yeah, things start blurring
we
together.
know what we meant to write, and our eyes no longer see mistakes because we could
Hmm.
probably recite to you like at least the first 50% of our book from memory.
Yeah.
And people just like they're like, "Oh, no, you just like write, edit, and then publish." I'm like, that's so cute that you think that it works that smoothly.
You're
um
like, no, 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 we're in the trenches with this.
yeah.
But yeah, that's so. I totally forgot what I was just about to say. I had a funny point to add to that, but anyway, disregard.
I call that the thought train taking off, but I didn't catch it, and it just
Yeah,
there it
it
went.
immediately left as soon as I thought it. Anyway,
Yep.
probably like half my book ideas, when you get one at night and then you never remember what it is the next morning, even though whatever
uh,
you were thinking of that night was the most brilliant thing ever.
I started keeping a notebook next to my bed just for that because I'm like, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and be like, oh, I've solved a plot hole, and I'll leave a note for myself. But in the morning, it does not make sense. Like
I
one of
was
the
going to
notes I
ask
left.
if it makes sense because I feel
No.
like not only do I have doctor's handwriting, I probably
Mm.
will have no idea what I'm trying to say, even if the words were legible.
Yeah. One time I just wrote clockwork peacocks, and I was like, what does that. What? What does that. What could that possibly mean?
So you know what? That would
I
be a
am.
great book title.
Right?
So
But I'm like, I'm working on a middle grade sci fi piece. What does clockwork peacocks mean? This does not belong here. What is going on? And then I just yell at myself. I'm like, Or I write down the most asinine idea, but it's like in detail, and I wake up in the morning and I'm like, no. No, like rip it out of the notebook and like throw it away. Like no one can ever know that I thought that ever. Like that's no.
I love that. Maybe I
Yeah.
should, because I did try and put it on my phone notes for a little while, like as in grabbing my phone in the night, but I also put my phone on Do Not Disturb. So it's like this fighting battle of trying to get it off Do Not Disturb to get into the notes. And then even
Mhm.
though the brightness is on the lowest, I always feel like it just glares you in the face, and then
Yes.
you get this blindness. So that didn't last very long.
Yeah, retinas? What retinas? I don't need
Yeah,
retinas.
I
It's
don't need
fine.
that. It's
It's cool.
fine.
They can just go. So, I do have specific questions to get
Yes.
to in the interview. Yes, it's lovely. I've only been talking for 15 minutes and it's fine. It's
I'm
cool.
so sorry. I go off on tangents all the time, so just pull me back in line when you need me
That's
to.
totally fine. Feel free to interrupt me. Rob will tell you I am a talker. Just go right ahead and talk over me. It's cool. So what fairy tales were living rent-free in your head while you had first started forming the idea for this series?
That's a really interesting question. So I'm a massive fairy tale fan of the original dark fairy tales, and obviously being a millennial growing up in the 90s with the Disney's Renaissance, we've all got those favorites. But there was always
Hmm.
something super fascinating to me about the original fairy tales and then how Disney made them quite bright and, lovely and
Yeah, nobody lost feet in
enjoyable.
Cinderella. Like,
Exactly. And my mum has massive book collection. She had all of the original tales. We've got a couple of Folio Society editions and whatnot. And so she would sometimes read them to me at night. So I grew up with this weird contrast of these Disney movies and these ones where, yeah, Cinderella's stepsisters cut off their feet and toes, and the Little Mermaid was only 12 years old and, ended up
and
watching the
killed
prince
herself,
marry
and
someone
yeah.
else and turns into sea foam and dies. And
Yeah.
yeah, so there are a couple of fairy tales that I really loved from that has kind of lived rent free in my head for a very long time. And when I was writing this, I wanted to keep obviously the known ones. So she's finding Princess Snow, which is Snow White, which is Rose Red.
Hmm.
And then you've got Hansel and Gretel, and then a few of your major ones. But there are a couple in there that I really wanted to include that weren't as known. So even though I had the major ones being used, there were minor ones that some of my all-time favorites that I really wanted to include. And that was the Soldier in the Tinderbox, the Three Crows. I really wanted to include the little Matchbox Girl in there, but I couldn't quite see where it would fit because to
Hmm.
this day that story still makes me absolutely bawl my eyes out. Oh my God, I'm getting like teary thinking about it. It's
It
like,
is
yeah,
sad.
for anyone
Like,
listening, if you haven't read it, it's beautifully sad.
yes.
It lives rent free in my head, so I couldn't include it in this. But yeah, I have included everything from The Little Mermaid to which was also one of my favorites growing up, possibly because the illustrations were just stunning. Um, and there's a lot of room for this series as well for, offshoot novellas or other things as well. So it's not to say that in future I might not find a little Matchbox Girl to fit in there or a Swan Princess or anything like that. Which I
Hmm.
know isn't, an original fairy tale Swan Princess. It's the based off the ballet, but I love that story too. So I think there's different ways that I can weave it in over the years. But yes, to answer your question, they're the ones that are probably in my head rent free that I just really wanted to include or at least have some kind of head nod to it. So, there might be a tavern that's named after them or somebody's name is from a main character from that particular tale. So there's a lot that will go over people's heads that haven't read those original tales or know them, but there are enough nods that for people like me or from the sounds of it you who've read them and know them, you'll read it and you'll recognize those little tributes, which I really wanted to do.
That's nice. I had I don't know how many American literature classes, but we have like the American fables, quote unquote.
Oh yeah,
Really, yeah. And one of them that has always stuck with me is the Green Ribbon.
I don't
If
think I've heard that one.
Oh, that one's really messed up. So it's set during the French Revolution, and the man falls in love, and the woman always has a green ribbon tied around her neck. And one night he's like, "Why do you always have the green ribbon tied around your neck?" And she unties it, and her head falls off because she had been at the guillotine. And I'm like, "Why are we
There's
reading
another.
this as children?"
Yeah, I've heard that story, but it's not called the Green Ribbon. There's another version of it.
Ooh.
Um, yeah, except I think in that the one that I've read, her throat slashed, so her head isn't. Yeah, that's interesting how they like. I think that's another thing that's cool about these fables and fairy tales. There's such cross reference depending on what region of the world you're
Yeah.
in. Yeah, like if you're in Europe or Australia or America, it's yeah, I really love that. So it kind of reminds me about there's this podcast where there's this woman who she's got a PhD in mythology and a whole bunch of other stuff, and she sort of went tracking to find like the origins of different fairy
Hmm.
tales. This is me going off on another tangent again, sorry.
Oh, go right ahead.
Um, and one of the most fascinating episodes that I read, listened to, was about Cinderella and how it actually stems from a Chinese tale. Because the slippers represented the bound feet that they do on
Oh.
women, and that's where kind of like the glass slipper concept came from, and it was this original tale from thousands of years ago that kind of influenced Charles Perrault to write Cinderella. Yeah, which it was
That.
fascinating. I'll see if I can find it and send it to you if that's something you're
Yes,
interested
please send it. That's absolutely
in.
like the academic nonsense that I love to listen to and peruse. I love stuff like that, especially like the regional variants of fairy tales,
Mm-hmm.
especially like Grimm, right? So like a lot of the Grimm fairy tales came to America as like publication was starting to take off, and they were like, well, fairy tales are definitely for children, and that's why most of the fairy tales that have been published in America, they have the happily ever after. They
Ever
have a happy
after.
ending. They don't have violence. Like Little Red Riding Hood is a really great example of it, because the end of Little Red Riding Hood is that the wolf falls upon Little Red Riding Hood and eats her, and she dies. The
Mm-hmm.
end. Period. Stop. But in America, the huntsman shows up and cuts them both out, and they sew up the rocks into the wolf's stomach.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'm like, cool. That's not the version that I have at home, teacher.
Same. I was like, that's not the English version I've got up here.
Yeah, that's not. Because my mom was the same way. We have special editions of Grimm fairy tales. We have Hans Christian Andersen's. We have Perrault. Like, we have all these fairy tales, and that's what I grew up on. And then I went to
Yep.
school, and they were like, and everything was happily ever after. I'm like, nuh-uh. like you're wrong.
It's so interesting, and you think, obviously this day and age we wouldn't happily give that to a child, like especially the Sleeping Beauty one, where she wakes up pregnant
Ooh,
because the
yeah.
prince didn't just kiss her.
Yeah.
So it's super interesting because it's like I read that as a child, and I don't know, I don't think I'm traumatized from it. Like I you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
to me it was, it was confronting, but so's the world, and that was the whole purpose of these tales, to kind of warn you about what happens and
Yeah.
prepare you for the cruelties of the world. So it's very interesting how much they've changed to suit time and cultures and countries. And yeah, Little Red Riding Hood, she definitely does not survive in the end.
Yeah, no. She just dead.
Nope.
She wolf food, and so
Yeah.
was her grandma. Yeah.
And it's like Hansel and Gretel, like they both escape, and they
Yeah.
defeat the witch. But in the original one, Gretel ends up burning with the witch. So yeah.
I don't remember which year of college. There are quite many years of college, but I had a myths and folklore class, and it was really fun. And my final paper was about how creepy all of these stories were when you take like a modern lens to it, because like Snow White is like 11 years old, The Little Mermaid was 12, Little Red Riding Hood, Sleeping Beauty, of course, is like rape culture. I'm like, this is really weird. But also, some of the female characters were weird. Like Little Mermaid, she watches the prince's window for 100 nights.
Yeah.
And just, like, watches him with his candle on and then off. And, like, basically watching him, like, flick his light switch on and off. And it's like, yeah, see, that's creepy, too. So, what is
it's
the
like
lesson?
coming into the level of obsession. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, what is the lesson that we take away now in modern day when it's like, that's not appropriate behavior? But also, his behavior's not appropriate behavior. Who are we supposed to side with here? Because, like, you're both creeps.
Yep.
And
that sounds like a fascinating subject, like, to be able to do and then submit to. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, my teacher was like, perfect.
Distinction.
Yes. Lovely. Just, what's the word I'm looking for? Perfectly jaded for academia, like, wonderful. Everybody else is like, oh, happy endings, and I'm like, they're creepy.
You're like,
Why
let's
are we reading
dissect this and every problem associated with it. No, I love it. I love it.
And my final question for this section. Okay, so These Grave Hearts, we're going to say, fractures the story across rival courts, shifting alliances, characters get scattered across the realm. So what changed in your approach when writing the story reached this level and scale of the consequences from the previous book?
You're asking me some toughies today. So books 2 and 3, as I said, are on the same timeline. So book four's
Hmm.
major challenge was having all of those point of views and then kind of bringing them back together again. So this book being the second last book in the series, I'm just going to lift it up.
Ooh, so pretty.
Basically, I love the colours. If you can tell, Little Mermaid themed in this one.
Hmm.
So with this one, the trick was bringing those point of views together in a way that starts tying up the threads for the finale. But what that also means is that we're kind of at the lowest of the low in this book. So I had to get everybody to a certain point where it really does beg the question of how far you would go for happily ever after. Like, what would you do, and what kind of wild, shit are you gonna get
Yeah.
up to do it? So we see a lot of characters in this one shift from, they could have been good and now they're sort of slipping into darkness, and then you've got others who kind of realize maybe that wasn't the right choice and I'm going to do this. So there's a lot of reflection, I guess, in this one, and a lot of things that happen that make them second guess, and it kind of
Hmm.
flips on both sides. So the struggle with this one is we have the original kingdom that it's set in, which we're familiar with by now. It's featured in the first book, so there wasn't much world building, obviously, that I had to do with that because I've already set it up. It's a very European looking town next to a big lake. And then you've got Feldrin, who's sort of a similar kingdom in a way. So there wasn't too much that I need to translate because they're quite close, side by side on the map wise. But
Yeah.
when we ventured into the Mer kingdoms, which is the Isle of Nysa for the sea nymphs and Teal Cove for the mermaids, I had the big question with that on how are they going to be depicted, right? So what's different between these two underwater kingdoms that also differ from the land kingdoms? Because at this point, there's probably different languages, there's different cultures, there's different fashions and styles. So I really dug quite deep in this one to differentiate a lot of that. And it was really fun. I sort of combined a few different languages for the mermaid language, took a lot of Japanese words. There's, different fashions that I did for each mermaid kingdom to clearly distinguish who's from where or what they represent,
Hmm.
and that was such a lot of fun to do. But I did have to spend a lot of time planning that out on a big board on what each kingdom looks like. Not only geographically, but what that looks like from a culture perspective, a food perspective as well, and what kind of matters to them. So in this instance, you kind of have, the sea nymphs have the sea witch as a queen, and then the mermaids at Teal Cove kind of have a King Triton-esque type king, but it's the mermaid prince that we're focusing on. So how's he a bit different to the other heir that's there? And it was really fun to play with all of that and kind of create these new worlds within this already existing world.
That's fun. That sounds like
Hmm?
a lot of fun. I can't wait
It
to.
was fun.
I can't wait to read it. I'm gonna order the whole series and throw it on my shelf, and it can sit there until I'm done with other books. But I am gonna read it.
Ah, thank you.
Totally up my alley. And I'm very happy to announce that we are at the first game of the podcast. And because you have copies of your book, I finally get to play Bring Your Own Book.
I'm really excited to hear about what this is. Yeah.
Yes. So, Bring Your Own Book is a little bit like Cards Against Humanity, where I have the black cards with the options on them, and your
Okay.
book is the white card. So you just flip through, go to the first full paragraph of the page, and pick an answer that fits from there.
Okay.
Okay? So, the very first one must say a name for a cat. And just flip to a random page, first full paragraph.
So I have to go to the first full paragraph.
Yes.
The name for a cat is Bryn.
Bryn. What a cute
Yes.
cat.
Very cute cat.
Flip to a new random page, and this one will be the subtitle of a new Fast and Furious film.
It's not somewhere my sister and I went.
Flip to a new random page. Text on a tombstone.
Faith in snow.
Aww.
That's actually quite lovely.
Yeah, that fits quite well, actually. New random page. Something we're all thinking but are too afraid to say.
It was a risk, a big one. I feel like
New
these are
random-
actually very valid.
Yeah, these are actually like hitting up pretty good. Like the first time I ever played this game, period. We had gone to the library, my friend Maggie, who also hosts with me, and one of the first things was like, oh, it's the currency of the future, and I flipped through a random page, and the very first word on it was children. I'm like, I give up. I'm done playing this whole game. This is wrong.
Oh my god, I would have lost it.
I was dying. Maggie was like, Jessica, no. But it is fun to play outside of the book, recommending such horrible things, yes.
I agree, yep. I mean, this is my Cards of Humanity, though, is such a popular game, right? Because it just takes it to that kind of next level. It's also like that Broadway show, Book of Mormon, like it kind of just takes it to that next level. Yeah.
A new random page.
Mm-hmm.
The most important ingredient in a magic potion.
Here we go. More salty meat with bread. That was... Okay. More of the same dreary monotony. So...
Yes. Beautiful. And the last one, new random page. Part of a note passed between desks in elementary school.
Okay, do we want to pick a dialogue here, or it's still just first paragraph, or first dialogue on the page?
Still first paragraph,
Okay.
I would say, yeah.
I don't know if this fits at all. But do I just read out the paragraph for this one? Or just the first sentence in it?
Whichever part you think fits best. Because it's just part of a note passed.
Just part of a note.
Yeah.
They had no idea what lay behind the door. That fits. Otherwise, I was going to say the dialogue that's under it is be a good little crow and open it for me. And that's why I was like, can I do the dialogue? Because I feel like that would fit really well.
What are these elementary kids up to? What is going on?
That's a really fun game. That's great.
It is great. I'm so happy I finally got to play it. I would say elementary school students are probably the most crow-like in that they just pick up whatever they find on the ground and they're like, it's mine, it's shiny. It's shiny, it's mine forever. So these next couple of questions are specifically about reading and writing and like the craft of storytelling. So your book aims to pull readers out of reality and make characters feel like their entire personality for a while. What techniques do you rely on to create that level of emotional immersion?
What techniques? So a lot of what I write, so to preface, all of my first drafts are a trash fire. I think we established this earlier, that the magic happens in editing.
All? Yes.
Yes. So I think with my personal craft, you know, when I'm doing the first draft, my biggest, I guess, goal is to, you know, get it done, obviously, but word vomit. So when I say word vomit, I just, you know, it doesn't matter if the chapter's 15 pages long or 3 pages long, as long as I get down what I want to get down. But I'm really big on, I guess, feeding as much emotion into that as possible, and then in the editing stage really focusing on showing what I'm trying to portray instead of telling. So instead of, you know, he felt the wind, it's more like talking about how goosebumps raise on his skin because the wind's going underneath his jerkin. And so it's setting that scene on how they're feeling without using those filler words, and I think that's really important. And even though sometimes, you know, that makes your manuscript a lot bigger, because, you know, that one sentence turns into 2 paragraphs, it does, you know, take that emotional punch a bit more. But I also like to put a little bit of my own experience into it when I can. So an example of that, I guess, is, I mean, not to get morbid real quick, so we'll just go over it, but my brother died while I was writing book 3. So that That's okay. So it's been 5 years, and so a lot of this is attributed to him as well. So there's a character in particular called Dante, he's been dead for the whole series. This isn't a spoiler. You find out about him in book one, but he's kind of from the past of Evelyn's character, and a lot of his traits or conversations or memories that she has of him is directly from me. So it was kind of like my own form of processing grief at the time, if that makes sense, kind of incorporating sections of my brother into that book. And I think you can really feel it, or at least I think people can feel it. And I've had a few readers write to me that, the opening scene of book 4 is actually a scene that involves both of these characters. And I've a few people mentioned that they cried. I was like, I'm so sorry. But also as an author, you're like, yes, I made people cry.
Cry. Yes.
Because my biggest thing isn't getting 5 stars, right? It's, did I make you angry enough that you threw the book across the room? Did I make you loathe a character? Did I make you love a character? Did I make you, put in your review, we must protect this particular character at all cost, did you
like,
cry?
if I'm screaming at it, it's a good book. Even if I'm like, oh my god, you're so stupid, and I turn the page and keep going, like emotional response.
So that's a big thing for me. So a lot of the techniques of that is, as I said, trying to put as much emotion as I can into it and making it very clear what I want from these characters. And then in the editing process, kind of using that show don't tell technique. But then when I come back to it a lot later, I'll leave it for 6 months to 12 months before I even look at a draft again. I'm kind of then in a dissecting stage. Like, am I still feeling anything from this scene, or do I need to dig a little deeper into that? And then after that, I've got that beta reader that I was telling you about, who then kind of plucks more from me depending on what she's feeling as well. So for me, it's kind of a mesh of all of those techniques put together to kind of really get that emotional drive for these characters, because that's such an important part for me as a writer, getting that emotion down as opposed to just, doing action packed or just overly addressing. I want everything to have a meaning or a link somehow, and really see these characters change and grow and learn in a way that, makes us as humans feel it with them.
Yeah. I am the opposite. I often leave placeholders where I'm like, she was mad about that, and we're moving on to the action. And I will come back and explain what anger feels like, but it'll be like a year from now.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. Emotion is not, it's really weird. I think emotion's very weird to write, because I'm like, if I'm writing a fight scene, aren't you just angry naturally? Like, don't you understand that she's mad? Why do I have to tell you all the mad feelings that she's having? But that's not how that works in a book. You have to explain things.
Yes. As I said, sometimes my first drafts are the same. I'll just be like, she was mad, or her face went pink, or heated her cheeks or whatever, and then I kind of just move on. And then later on, I'm like, okay, we can bring more from this. And then sometimes it's far too much, and I've got to dissect and cut. And then other times my mate will be like, you've cut too much. You need to give me more. And I'll be like, but I just cut all of that. So then I rewrite a big chunk of it.
I had a piece I'd sent to a friend from my MFA, and she was like, Jessica, there's like a page and a half of this girl doing chores.
We've
and
all
then
been there.
and then no emotion whatsoever when she gets yelled at in the next chapter. Nobody wants to read about people doing chores. Just cut this whole section. What is wrong with you? I'm like, no, but it's important for my word count to have that extra 150 words.
We've all been there. I had 3 pages once. It was in book 2 where the main character Evelyn is cleaning a cauldron. She cleans it for 3 pages, like aggressively. And there's like one piece of black sludge that she just can't get off. And for some reason, I was just stuck on this cauldron. In the final book, I want to let you know that it's now 1 line. But originally it was 3 pages and I was just like, yeah, you clean that cauldron, you get that aggression out, yeah. And I had to have a hard conversation where my friend was like, no, here's your here's the sentence, just see ya. And I was like, bye. There goes like 1,500 words.
It's
Oh,
so
funny.
true. It's
Hmm.
so true. So, I saw in your bio that you
Hmm.
wrote Gilded Mirror entirely on your mobile phone.
I did. I do not recommend it.
Yeah. I did that for a paper when my computer died my senior year of college. Also, do not recommend it.
Do not recommend it.
Totally.
Yep.
Mm. How did that constraint affect your drafting habits, and did it change how you think about like perfection or accessibility in writing?
It's it was an interesting process because at the time it was for National Novel Writing Month in
Hmm.
like 2018, and I had a few pieces of work that I'd gotten up to that 30,000 words, and I just dropped them, right? I never finished them. And the whole point of NaNoWriMo was to do 50,000 words in 30 days.
Yep.
And so by using that mobile phone, I had the ability of, because at the time I was working in the city in an office. So the phone was portable enough that I could do it on the train, on my lunch break, when I was taking, after work, if I was meeting people for, I don't know, a drink or dinner or something, in that period between work and them arriving, I would spend the 2 hours there writing on the phone. And it was kind of like this accessibility of being able to get the words down without lugging a laptop around, without setting my expectations. And because I had not finished so many things before on a laptop, I thought maybe I needed to tackle this differently, right?
Hmm.
Because I'd never written a novel, I didn't know what my writing process was. And you, as you probably know, or anybody who's looking to write a book knows, you can read so many books on how to write a book, and none of them give you an answer, because the thing is,
Yep.
there is no answer. And it's really frustrating when you're still trying to figure out how it works for you. And so this kind of unlocked how it worked for me, and it unlocked that I'm just going to get it out and word vomit and just see where this goes, and do it from there. But I did find an app at the time which made it way easier. I cannot remember the name of it, but it was basically a novel writing app. And what it did was it put it in Times New Roman, and it formatted it with indents and paragraphs, and you could do new tabs like you would in OneNote for
Hmm.
chapters. So I could go back and forth. It gave me my word count in real time. And I think because it was layered, or set out as a novel, that was my app for writing. So it didn't feel like I was just in my notes or getting
Yeah.
confused. And I ended up, yeah, I think by the end of that, 7 weeks total, it took me to write 90,000 words, because I just kept going. Obviously, a lot of that book was entirely rewritten because
Yes.
autocorrect does not do nice things. And book
Oh.
two, I tried to write it again on the phone because I was like, maybe this is how I do it. And book two just wasn't working on the phone, so I switched back to a laptop. So I now write on a laptop, but I think using that phone was kind of like an unlocking mechanism for me to be able to go, okay, I can do this. Maybe it wasn't the phone, it was, the word vomiting and just making sure that I get this down, because magic happens. You can't edit a blank page. So
Yeah.
let's try that instead. And maybe the consistency is what I needed. So yeah, I've got 9 drafted manuscripts now. So I've got a nice backlog, which is great. But all of them have been 5 days a week consistency, just like I did during NaNoWriMo. I focus on word count, but I just make sure that it's more that I'm just word vomiting what I can and getting down what I can. And even if I'm hating it, just keep going, because I can edit it later.
Hmm.
Some days you're not feeling it, some days you are, but when you look at it as an entire whole manuscript and draft, you don't know what days were the bad days and what days were the good days, because it
Yeah.
all blends in the end. So I think that was a big thing of what it taught me. But I do have a little dent in my pinky from that period, and it's never quite gone away.
No.
Like, it's so, yeah.
It's a little scarred reminder.
Little
Never type it up
scarred
on your phone
reminder,
again.
yeah. So it's great for anybody who's on the move a lot, if especially if you've got one of those Samsungs that, a double open, like the big
Oh yeah.
double screen. I feel like that would have been great to
I
use at the time.
I did mine on a BlackBerry, if anybody remembers those, because it was like
Oh,
2012. Yeah.
wow. Okay.
Uh, And I don't recommend that. I ruined that keyboard. My computer got a virus, and while I was waiting for it to get fixed, I had to
No.
retype my thesis based on old drafts of my thesis so that I could then go to the computer lab and get it printed and fixed and everything. And I was like, I'm gonna throw an entire building across the room. This is
Yeah.
absolute nonsense.
I'm just imagining you like internally screaming the entire time.
Yeah, I was just like wide-eyed and just like, if you looked at me, you could probably hear the internal scream happening in my head. I was just like, People would come up and be like, have you eaten today? Get the hell away from me. Like, it was a rough time. It was a rough time in Jessica's history. It was oof.
I love that.
And then and then the note on craft books, I wound up majoring in writing for my master's degrees, and of course, you always read all these craft books, and every last one of them is like, just sit down and do it. And I'm like, I hate you. I hate you and your just sit down and do it method. Like, there's a part in Stephen King's On Writing when he's like, yeah, I just sit down.
That's my
I do a
favorite
draft.
one. That was
And
the
I
most
edit
useful
it.
book.
The part that there is one part of that continues to terrify me to this day, and it's when he's talking about when he was writing Carrie, and he wrote the scene where they're all throwing tampons and pads at her in the locker room, and then he was like, that's going nowhere, and he threw it out, and his wife took it out of the trash can, the physical trash can. And I'm like, I don't have a physical trash can. I don't print out my work and, like, put it somewhere. It is digital, period. It is on a space that no one can access except for me. So if I have an idea that someone is like, wow, that's a great idea, I'm never going to know. And so I don't delete anything. Like, my hard drive is just full of half-written notes that I'm just like, that's going there. And, like, other drafts that are like, okay, I cut this from something, but maybe it'll fit into something else. And it just goes to this very long document. And I'm like, that's where it'll stay, because it might be helpful one day.
As I said, I think that's the best book on writing. Like, I mean, the first half is obviously a biography of his life, but I think most of the habits that I picked up were from his book as well. One of them being ignore the red lines, just keep going. Hence my word vomiting. I don't go back and re-edit chapters as I'm going, because he's just like, just get it out. And honestly, that alone is on repeat in my head as well. So it's such a good book. Yeah.
Like, the get it out part is like really great advice. And it's true. Like, the more you keep going back to like re-edit it, the more you're just going to be like stuck in chapter 3 for eternity. But a lot of the other books that we read were like, every day at 2, I sit down at my laptop and words just flow from me. I'm like, isn't that nice for you? That is not how my brain works.
That is not how my brain works. Some days are great. I'll do like 3,000 words in 2 hours, and other days I'm lucky to get 70.
Right? I'm like, I've got ADHD and depression. It's a miracle if I remember what I wrote yesterday. This is not how my brain works. One of the books we read, I think it was Writing Down the Bones, and there's just a whole chapter on pens. Just pens. Just what kind of pens you should be doing your writing with. I'm like, I don't write with a pen. I do everything on my laptop. What is this outdated nonsense?
You don't need that.
Like, it just made me feel so frustrated, because as you are getting into that sense of like, this is how I write, when you are reading all of these books that are like, this is the way to write, and your writing process doesn't match up with that, it kind of creates this feeling of inadequacy and just, oh, 100%. Well, I'm not writing correctly. I'm not able to do it. And I think a lot of people fall into that hole of like, well, I'm not doing it the way Stephen King did it, so I'm obviously never going to get a book published. And it's like,
but I think it's also like, it's also the opposite, where, you know, people are like, you'll find your own way to do it, and then you'll say, well, I'm stuck at 30,000 words, and then they'll say, well, you're already there, just keep going. And you're like, that is so unhelpful.
Yep.
Thank you for giving me absolutely nothing to work with.
Thank you. Excellent advice.
Excellent. Just keep going. Okay, great.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yep. I remember when I first started querying, and of course, you know, when you query, you wait like sometimes up to a year for a rejection, which is just, at that point, I figured you didn't want it. I didn't need the email to let me know that you didn't. But my mom doesn't understand that, like, you send it off and you leave them alone, right? That's how
Yeah.
finding an agent works. Even finding a publisher, you send it, and if they want it, they'll get back to you. She's like, you should be calling them every day. I'm like, no.
Ah.
No.
That's like
See, I
when
want
they tell
get
you to send a
published.
letter to the CEO or something as well, and you're like, no.
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 If they ignore me, that's quite common. I might never hear from
Yeah.
them ever again. I'm just grateful if I get a response, to be honest.
Yeah, even a form response is really nice, but no, I will not be following up on this, because I want to get published and not blacklisted from the entire industry, so...
Yeah, exactly. It'd be like, beware of this woman who's acting like the Little Mermaid staring at a prince's window.
Right? This crazy bitch listened to her mother do not answer her emails, and I feel like that post-it note would go up everywhere if I listened to that. So, yeah. So rough. So rough. That brings us to the second game of the podcast.
Great. I love me a good game. Mm-hmm.
And this one is I'm actually going to go to the first game that I was going to play. This one's going to be Space 'em or Embrace 'em. So Space 'em or Embrace 'em comes with a little story to it. You are cruising through the galaxy with a cargo full of tropes and cliches, and you're getting sucked into a black hole, and you have to get down to a certain number by ejecting these things off of your ship. The problem is your computer is a little broken, and you can only see 2 options at a time, so you can choose to keep both of the options, and we'll move on. But you do have to get down to a magic number that I rolled before the interview.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so your first 2 are a cursed object that whispers your worst thoughts, or a morally grey love interest with excellent banter.
So I'm picking the one that I want to throw away and the one that I want to keep?
Yes.
Okay, I want to keep the morally grey because banter is always like top tier for me in books. Dialogue's a big win, so we'll get rid of the other one.
Okay.
The cursed object?
Next cursed object is out the airlock. Next to...
Bye!
A prophecy everyone misunderstands, or blood magic with a personal cost.
Keep blood magic, get rid of prophecy. Even though I have prophecy in my own series, so I'm really sorry, but like, bye.
You're like, I've done it for $5. It's done.
We can
gone.
eject it now. Yeah.
It's done. Enemies forced into an alliance, or a kingdom built on an ancient lie.
Ooh. I want to keep both of those.
Okay, we'll come back to
I like
those.
both of them. Yeah.
Love that actively complicates the plot, or a mirror that shows you who you could become.
Let's eject both of those. I'm
Okay.
going to be brutal with this one.
Out the airlock. A chosen one who refuses the role, or a happily ever after with fine print.
That is so interesting because both of those tropes are basically my entire series. So I feel like I can't eject them. So I'm going to keep both of these ones.
Okay, we have to keep going because we are not down to the magic number.
Okay.
Okay, so a morally grey love interest with excellent banter, or blood magic with a personal cost.
All right, let's eject blood magic.
Blood magic. Enemies forced into an alliance, or a kingdom built on an ancient lie.
I love enemies with forced alliances. I'm like a sucker for it, so I'm going to have to get rid of the kingdom.
And a chosen one who refuses the role, or happily
Don't
ever
do
after
this
with
to
fine print.
All right, I will eject the reluctant hero and keep the fairy tale ending with fine print. Oh, that was hard.
I'm not done yet. I gotta hold on. 1,
Go away.
3. One last round. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Morally grey love interest with excellent banter, or enemies forced into an alliance.
I can't. They're like... This is incredibly difficult. I'm gonna... Oh, they're both so good, though. Okay. I'm gonna keep the banter because I feel like the great stories and great storytelling is a lot of it is in the dialogue. The way the characters react with each other, the banter that they've got, and not just necessarily like love interests. I think with your funny side characters and stuff as well. So I'm gonna have to keep that one, and we'll eject the other one.
Okay, and this is the last time.
That was so sad.
This is the last options. I'm so sorry. Morally gray love interest with excellent banter, or a happily ever after with fine print.
I'm gonna riot. I feel like I just defended dialogue so strongly. So, okay, fine, we'll get rid of fine print, happily ever after.
Fine print. Which leaves you with a morally grey love interest with excellent banter. I rolled a 1 today. I'm very sorry.
That is brutal. But I'm sitting here being like, surely I've got like 3 or 4. That was brutal. Thank you for stressing me out this morning.
You're very welcome. So fun.
That was a good game though. That was a great game. And a lot of tough choices.
I go out of my way to find the tropes in people's books to put in those games so that they...
Honestly, it's such a smart way to do it.
It's so fun and so, like, agonizing, because some of them are like...
squirm.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so I bet you enjoyed that. I'm glad.
I did enjoy that. We also play Never Have I Ever Spoiled My Own Book, which is always fun, and I'm like super petty about it. I'll be like, never have I ever written a book called The Gilded Mirror. And if you've done 5 or more of them, you have to spoil something from the book, and I'm like,
oh, that is brutal.
Yeah, I'm like, I'll stalk you on social media and make you spoil something. I'm not above being incredibly petty with the options that I put together for that round. That's great.
So funny. Okay, I'm really grateful that you didn't play that one with me because I am terrible. I'm a terrible liar, and I am terrible at like, there's been so many times in my street team or in my newsletter or like a, TikTok video that I'm doing where I've almost said something that I shouldn't have said. And I've had to have some of my like street team admins and stuff be like, Kim, you need to delete that now. And I'm like, ugh!
But I want to say it. It's hard.
Yeah, so I need to learn how to do that and turn the subtitles off my face. Because apparently my face gives me away when I know something or something's going to happen. I'll be like, I can't answer that, but obviously my face is telling you the answer.
I do love going to panels with, like, authors like that have, subtitles, like, in bright neon across their forehead, and people be like, what, is this character gonna die? And they're just kind of like deer in headlights. We're like, oh my god, they're gonna die.
That's me. I'm full like, no. I'm like sweaty palms,
You just got a notebook, like, no, absolutely not. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's like those viral videos, where they've been like sticking the bit of paper with like the smiley face when they're. Have you seen that trend?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. I feel like we need one of those where you just stick the paper on, it's a smiley face so they can't see your expression or
customer
anything.
Service face, like, do
you
have water? Yes, we do. Oh my god, how did you know? Yes. Yeah, we need that for some authors. We need that for me when sometimes we read books and I've already read them, and one of my favorite things to do at the end of the podcast is we speculate about what's going to happen next in the book. And for the last couple of books that we've read, I haven't gotten to do that because this season we're rereading The Hunger Games. We're doing a whole series all the way up to the release of Sunrise on the Reaping in theaters.
I'm so excited for that. That was my book of 2025, Sunrise on the Reaping. Like, that was my book of choice for last year.
My co-hosts have not read Sunrise on the Reaping yet. And so in this reread, I'm like, Sunrise, Sunrise, and Ballad. Like, they haven't read them, and they're like, Jessica, turn your face off. Because you're ruining things, and I keep sitting there like, and yeah, it's bad.
I am you and you and me, because I would be doing the same thing. Yeah.
It's bad. It's bad. I have to mute myself and, like, get out of the room. It's terrible. It's terrible. So, final round of questions. These are totally unhinged, sleepover-worthy questions.
Mm-hmm. Love.
Yep. Always fun to do the absolute nonsense. So, which character would get banned from a group chat within 5 minutes?
These are the characters from the book, right? That's who we're.
Yes.
Yes. I'm gonna say Pip.
Okay.
Yeah,
If
he is a very sarcastic meanie and just likes to take the piss on everyone.
if the Gilded Mirror showed a GoodReads review written by your characters about you as their author, what would it say?
Um, Cruel, manipulative bitch. When is this over?
What did we do to deserve this?
This, yes.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, exist.
You're simply being alive. I'm so sorry, but not at the same time. Yes.
Hee
Who
hee.
would survive? Who would survive a reality TV competition, and who would be eliminated immediately for being too much?
Snow. Princess Snow, for sure. Yeah.
She'd survive, or she'd be eliminated immediately.
I feel like she could go either way, to be honest, because she's very she can dig her heels in, and she's been in enough situations that she can sort of adapt in that she's very thrifty is not the word. Savvy maybe is a better word. Like, she's very savvy, and I think she would kind of claw her way, but at the same time she rubs a lot of people the wrong way. So depending on if it's a viewership watching for entertainment purposes, or if it's like a survivor, and she's getting voted off, she'd definitely be the villain on the show, and could potentially get voted off immediately as well. But there is a very high possibility that she would claw her way to the finish line too. So can I pick one person just for that answer? Because I feel like she could swing both ways.
I mean, yeah, you can pick it if you like this person. Either way, it's her.
Amazing.
I feel like you justified it enough, yes.
Yeah.
Which character knows that they are in a fairy tale and is deeply annoyed about it?
I'm going to say Eveline, the main character. Like, she would be pissed. She would be like, are you effing joking? Yeah, I'm definitely going to say Eveline for that one.
Coming up to you like, you could have done this in any number of ways, and this is what you chose?
Oh, yeah, and she would have been like, and out of everyone, she's like, why me? Like, why is this always me in the middle of this? I don't approve. I'm not, no. Not today.
Absolutely rude. Coming for you. Ridiculous.
Yeah. Stab. Yep.
What is the pettiest magical rule in your world that you secretly love?
The pettiest magical rule? Oh my god, I don't know if I can think of one straight away. I feel like because you've got different classes of magic. One that comes from the land, one from the original gods, who are kind of the most powerful, and then blood magic, which has got your usual, has a cost to it. So I suppose most magic has a cost, and that's just part of it. But I wouldn't call it petty by any means. I mean, I guess in this instance, Morena has to eat maidens' hearts, and the fresher the heart, the more I guess she powers up or regenerates. So from a petty perspective, there is one moment in one of the books where she has to eat an old heart, which is really gross, but I really loved that she had to do that to replenish her power. So maybe that so my pettiness was that she only had like a week old decaying one to eat, and that made me feel great.
Heard it here first, folks.
Yeah.
If you had to swap one happily ever after for maximum chaos, whose would you sacrifice first?
People aren't going to like this answer, but Malik. Yeah. It would incite chaos. The amount of messages I've had of being like, you better not kill him, you better give him a happily ever after, you better not, like, we will riot. I feel like, yeah, there would be absolute chaos if I decided to change his happily ever after, or not give him one, or kill him off, but yes, that would incite chaos for sure.
And finally, which character would you defend online, even if they were objectively wrong?
Who would I defend online if they were objectively wrong? I'm going to say Porkid, the fairy. She's always right in my eyes. Yeah.
So we ask this of all of our guests at the end of our interviews. Is there anybody that you would like to thank today? Anybody from workshop buddies to publishers?
Yeah, mainly my beta readers. I think they are just, I wouldn't be here without them to, pull up the emotions from me or do any of that stuff. So, my beta readers are the big one, and Jared, and I don't know, like with writing, it's such a solo thing, but there's so many people that are involved with it, formatters, cover designers, other writers and authors and things like that as well. So I always just want to thank all of them, because I don't think you can go far in this community without being a part of that community. And the Australian indie community especially is quite small in the fantasy space. So I think in the US it's a bit different, being that you guys have, quadruple the amount of people there that we do here. Yes, so our community is quite small, and a lot of people, know of or have met or know through, and it's close knit in that way. So I definitely wouldn't be where I am now without that community. So I guess I want to thank them, because they're the best.
It's very nice. And then just go ahead and plug your socials for us before I read us off the stream.
Amazing. So all my socials, I've tried to make it as easy as possible. It's all under K.E. Barden Author. So that's one word. I've got TikTok, I've got Threads, I've got Instagram and Facebook. There's a Facebook page as well. So I'm probably most active, though, on TikTok and Instagram. So that's where you get most of your announcements first.
Lovely. Easy to find, easy to do.
Thanks for staying up with us. Follow us on Instagram and Threads at BookedAllNightPod. Drop a comment to let us know what you thought of today's show, and join our Discord server for giveaways, excerpts, and more. It's still in the works, but we're aiming for 100 members. Catch our live author interviews on YouTube and leave a question for our guests on our Discord server. Check out our shop and website at bookedallnight.co. That's bookedallnight.co. And if you're loving the chaos, don't forget to rate us 5 stars. Until next time, booklets, and remember to stay booked all night.